Well, I think you've got to start at the very, very beginning. Now, one of the greatest attributes of leveraging generative AI is if you're doing it the right way, it not only can make you efficient, no question about that, but it can make you more effective, which is even more important. One of the biggest concerns a lender has is if I deploy AI, is it going to introduce bias into my process? Am I going to be leveraging algorithms that are based upon historical data, which have a natural bias built into them? So the only thing that's worse than a bad process is an automated bad process. So you don't want that. So if you look at how we've been thinking about deploying AI, it's going and attacking those specific use cases. So where the whole origination process gets started is typically with an originator having a conversation with the consumer, right? But think about that process and think about the natural bias, the human bias that's already present in that conversation. Years and years ago, and I won't tell you how long, I was an originator. And so what happens is, as an originator, you learn a couple of products, loan products, really, really well. Those become kind of your bread and butter products that you can always go to. You know them inside and out. And you start with those. And so when you sit down, whether at a Starbucks or in someone's living room or over a Zoom call with a potential borrower, and you start having a conversation with them, those natural biases, those human biases automatically creep in. I think, okay, well, this borrower is telling me that they have about this much down, and they're telling me they make about this much a year. And so I start to default to, okay, well, I've got this conventional loan program I know really well, and I've got this FHA loan program I know really well. I immediately think, okay, well, they're not going to qualify for the conventional, so I automatically switch to FHA. So now I've just allowed my experiences, my bias, to determine what sort of a loan program that this consumer is going to get. Then I stop, because once I've got them qualified for one of those few loan programs that I know really well, I don't keep going. I don't keep looking for the 7th loan program they could qualify for or the 10th, because I got them qualified. And that was the goal for me as an originator, and that was their goal as a consumer. However, if you look across our industry, there are so many different unique and niche products that exist out there, whether through the agencies, if you happen to be a firefighter or a school teacher, with the various programs that each of the states make available. So there's all of these different, criteria that, if met, could unlock additional loan products. But what I just described to you of a practice that I did years and years ago, unfortunately and ironically, sounds pretty familiar to what a lot of originators do still today. So we deploy generative AI through what's called an Originator Assistant to help the originator be aware of not only all of the loan programs that consumer might be eligible for. So you don't just stop with your human bias of the 1 or 2 or 4 or 6 you know really well, but you look across the entire portfolio of loan products that are available to you so you can make sure you're giving them the very best loan program that they're eligible for. But we took it a step further. We also looked at the near misses. So what are all the loan programs that borrower just missed out on that normally as an originator I would never bring up because they don't qualify for? But now with generative AI, I can tell the originator in a very natural language, way of communicating that if this consumer were to do this, close this trade, consolidate this credit card, improve their credit score by 7 points, they would then qualify for these additional 6 or 10 or 20 loan products. So now you're really putting the long-term best interests of the consumer first and foremost, beyond just how do I get to the quickest yes possible. So that's a way that you're using generative AI as an anti-bias tool to help that originator be able to get to yes, not only more often, so not just quicker and more efficiently, but finding a more effective long-term loan program for that consumer.